Thank you for joining me today. Unafraid, right or wrong. We're here, new location a little bit today, but I'm George Reister. Shifting a little bit away from sports today, we have a couple topics. First of all, make sure you like the feed, share the feed, continue the conversation. We'll make something great every day. If you haven't heard, there are 5 teens who are in Michigan who are being charged with murder, right? Yes, they're being charged with second degree murder for dropping rocks over an overpass. Should they be charged as an adult? All this stuff. So we're going to get into that. That's the first thing. Second thing is there's an article I posted on my Facebook and my Twitter. And if you're watching on YouTube, it's at the bottom. The link is there, about moms who are defending their sons with sexual assault on college campuses. And the last thing is, we've seen multiple professional athletes talking about trade me. And I tell you this, be careful what you wish for. But the first thing, though, you guys, first of all, this is going to be a serious conversation today. So hopefully you guys like it. Hopefully you guys weigh in as well, because it's going to get real. It's going to get real. So there were 5 teens in Michigan in between the ages of 15 and 17. They're throwing rocks off an overpass. They throw at least 20 rocks, right? For anywhere in between like 3-4 pounds all the way up to one rock that was up to 20 pounds, right? They're throwing rocks off the overpass. And from the overpass, they hit at least 4 cars. And one of the rocks, a 6-pound rock, hits a car, goes through the passenger windshield, hits a man in the face and in the chest, and he dies, right? Man dies. These kids are being charged with second-degree murder. They're being charged as adults. And I put it out there, how do you feel about it? Should these kids be charged as adults? And also, how long should they go to jail? Because they are minors, right? They are minors. So I get that. And I know that parents, that they defend their kids to the hilt until the end of the time, right? But a lot of this has to do with like character, right? This has to do with character, because it's easy to yell about doing the right things when your feet aren't to the fire and when your character isn't tested. But how do you do in times of adversity? Like if this was your kid, what would you do? Would you be okay with your kid going to jail for doing this? Or are you going to say, oh, he's just a stupid kid and all this stuff? Because the way I look at it is this, is I'm like, these are minors, right? 15 to 17 years old. And when you look at groups of kids, if you look at a group of 5 kids, all of them aren't going to be turds. Like all of them aren't going to be troubled kids or bad kids, like to their kind of core almost, I guess. You're going to have 2 of them who are kind of leading the pack. Oh, yeah, let's go do this mischief. Let's go do this, right? And then you're going to have one of them who's kind of on the fence, and then another 1 or 2 who are kind of hesitant about doing whatever the hell it is that you're doing. Then I'm sitting there thinking that they're throwing rocks over the overpass like you knew that you had damaged 4 cars. And you continue to do it. So how long is really appropriate for these kids to go to jail? If you guys didn't see, the article is posted on my Twitter. It's posted on my Facebook as well, and on the YouTube comments. Because I got to thinking, I don't love the idea of minors being charged as adults, but you can't just give this a slap on the wrist. Like at no point in time is this a slap on the wrist worthy offense. I mean, and then it goes back to as a parent, right? Because one of their parents spoke out, oh, these are just kids, mischief, they didn't really know what they're doing and all this. And I'm sitting there like, well, that's not the case. They did know what they were doing. They knew that they were doing something that could potentially hurt people. Like they knew they were doing something wrong. They knew it. So at no point in time do I feel like the sympathy for the kids that some other people have. I just don't. But part of me does have compassion for them, because I'm like, yo, like these are kids. They messed up. Should their whole life be ruined? And that's where sometimes we get to pointing out the victims, right? Like here's where the victims don't always get the credit. Well, the victims sometimes get turned from the actual victim, but the actual offender, because these kids knew what they were doing. They knew that somebody could potentially get hurt, but they continued to do it anyway. And the victims sometimes get lost after they're already passed away, and you hear people say, oh, well, what about these kids? They have so much life to live. You know, let's not throw their life away because they made one poor decision. I mean, just like the kid Brock, what's his name? Brock, the kid from Stanford, who had sex with an unconscious girl. They gave him 6 months. Oh, don't let 20 minutes just ruin a kid's life. No, I mean, they have to pay for this. So I was trying to figure out what is the appropriate amount of time that these kids should spend in jail. If you guys are just joining me, I'm talking about the five teenagers in Michigan who were throwing rocks off an overpass and killed a man in a car. They're being charged with second-degree murder, potential life imprisonment, and because we can't let these kids go, but what's an appropriate amount of time for them to go to jail? I mean, how long? I mean, is it 7 to 10 years? Is it 20 years? Is it life? Because I understand that there was a loss of life, so there has to be some sort of like payment for this and some sort of justice for this. But we run the risk of calling these kids just minors and calling them, oh, they're just silly kids who made a mistake. No, they threw 20 damn rocks. They threw 20 rocks down to kill somebody. And maybe they didn't think that they would kill anybody, but however, there are consequences to your actions. And a lot of times in life, we get to a point where we're saying, oh man, like we have high character because their parents are going to have to deal with this on some level. We have high character. We stand on our moral high ground saying, listen, these kids need to pay. These kids need to, they did this. They need to pay, right? But isn't it really easy to do the right thing when your feet aren't to the fire, when your character is not being tested? Because your character is truly tested during times of adversity. You can claim to be pro-life, but when your daughter gets pregnant, or your son gets some random chick pregnant, being irresponsible in college, or you're a dude and it's your mistress, or you're a wife and you were messing around and you got pregnant messing around. I mean, do your morals and values go out the window at that point in time? Because that's what this made me think about. Because I got to thinking, like, if this were my son, like, how would I handle this? Like, I mean, obviously you want to put up the best defense possible for your kid, right? You don't want them to go to jail for life because you generally think your kid's a good kid. You generally think that your kid is, you know, like has redeemable qualities and made a mistake. So, but how much of a defense would you put up for your kid? Would you put up your house? I mean, like what? Like, do you try to get them off, or do you just let them just get a public defender and live with the consequences? Now that's the question. Do you defend your kid to the hilt and try to get him off? I mean, like Johnny Cochran try to get him off. Or do you let him face the consequences? Because that's where character comes in a lot of times, right? Because that's not the easy thing to do. I mean, it's not. That's hard to let your kid go to prison for something that they did when they were a teenager. That's a hard choice. But it's also, you know, like you can't let your morals go out the window just when your feet are to the fire. Look at Representative Tim Murphy out of Pennsylvania. You know, we have harsh views on people, and we want to throw the book at them. Like, he was pro-life. He's pro-life. Yes, abortions are bad. We should throw people in jail for abortions. But then he gets his mistress pregnant, and he's trying to get her to have an abortion. I mean, come on, man. Like let's really be real about this. And then, or we look at an athlete, or we look at Chris Brown, who got in trouble for domestic violence. We should boycott him. He should never be able to work. Yeah, but you go watch Sean Penn movies. You go watch, you know, whoever else perform. You go watch their movies. I mean, where's the character in that? So we want to, I mean, I'm just highlighting the hypocrisy and the disparity in what we say and what we actually do, right? Just like people say, oh man, I'm not racist. I have this many black friends. I just love this, love that. But then what happens when your daughter brings home the black guy? What happens when she brings home the Muslim dude? What happens then? Are you all in then? You guys are watching Unafraid, Right or Wrong. Please swipe up, like the feed, share the feed, continue the conversation because it is so real. We're talking about the kids in Michigan who got charged with murder. Second degree murder for throwing rocks off an overpass and hitting a car, hit inside the car, hit a man in the face, and he died. How long should they go to jail? And if there are the parents, would you put up a real defense for this? Like, how much are you willing to spend? Are you going to sacrifice your entire pension and 401k for this? Like, I mean, really, are you going to do that, or are you not? I mean, because that's real talk right there. I don't know what you would do. Next thing up, I read an article in the New York Times today about sexual assault on campus in colleges. And it was very interesting because it was from the angle of the moms of the accusers. Because I know moms and parents, we want to defend our kids to the moon. Like, we will defend our kids and try to protect them and love them and all that stuff, right? But recently, what happened is Betsy DeVos. If you don't know who she is the Secretary of Education that Trump appointed. And while Obama was in office, new regulations were put in place for victims, for college campuses adjudicating sexual assault. And it was put, I get why it was put in place, because the laws were enacted to stop sexual assaulters from transferring out and walking away scot-free. But the regulations made it the way that they could put it on their transcript that they were accused of sexual assault until it was finished being adjudicated, and there was the lowest standard of proof, right? There's the lowest standard of proof needed to kind of convict them of that, which meant that they could be expelled, it would be on the transcript for employers, all of these things, right? And it was a noble cause, right? But doesn't that create a system where you are guilty before you're proven innocent? And we live in 2017. I mean, it's just the truth. Everybody does not have the best of intentions. They don't. And these allegations, they can be weaponized by a scorned lover to mask embarrassment. They can be like to mask the embarrassment of cheating, or just the fact that other people that you had sex with a particular person and maybe you don't like it. So there's the element of it being weaponized, which I mean totally hurts and is awful for the victims of actual sexual assault. Like the women who are raped and sexually assaulted. Like, when people falsely accuse, you actually do them the biggest disservice, even bigger than the man who you accuse, because now you're affecting thousands and thousands of people who are sexually assaulted. And then that got me to thinking that it also creates the idea, the way that the law was particularly written at first, it was if you do nothing wrong, nothing bad will happen to you. And that's not true. That's not a lie, because everybody doesn't have the best of intentions. People can weaponize this against you, right? So that's one thing is real. And so the most controversial part about the Obama era guidelines is that it demanded colleges use the lowest set of proof, the preponderance of evidence. That means over 50%, 50.1%, in deciding whether a student is responsible for sexual assault. I mean, you can get disciplined, you can get expelled from school. And it sucks because there are women and there are people who have been sexually assaulted, who are not going to have the person who committed the crime against them prosecuted and all that. But that gets to this question, right? Which is the worst evil, right? Which is the worst? Because you're sitting here and you're like, hold up, is it worse for a guilty person to potentially walk away from something wrong that they did and get away scot-free? Or is it worse to send some innocent people or have some innocent people branded as sex offenders not be able to work and all that? Which one is worse? I can't figure out, because they're both equally as terrible. Because if you are a person who is falsely accused of something that they didn't do, I mean, there's nothing worse than that, because you yourself are labeled as a pariah for the rest of your life. And I just don't understand why people would be okay with that. I mean, because I'm not okay with it. I wouldn't imagine that you would be okay with that. I mean, and it is a controversial topic. People are hot about it. People are upset about it. People are happy with it. People are, and there's the idea, because here's where sometimes we get it totally wrong, is that the vast majority of these campus sexual assault cases, they involve alcohol, no witnesses. So you have essentially two people who were probably drinking, trying to recall events that may have happened weeks, months, or years before. Then there's a lot of stuff socially that has happened in between. So it doesn't always go the way that it should go, which is absolutely ridiculous, right? And the idea that some people have that wearing a short dress or provocative clothing doesn't that it encourages rape or invites rape is not true. Like that's a myth that we must dispel amongst men and all this, right? Because boys have to be taught what consent looks like, and that certain things are inappropriate. But at the same time, this is true that women also have to take responsibility for their own safety on some level. And I'd say the same thing to boys, because too much alcohol, too many drugs, too many this or that, you can put yourself in a bad spot, in a bad situation. That's just the truth, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman. So you have to take responsibility for your own safety and not just put the onus on other people as well. Like it's a combo deal. Just like I, as a man, as a person out in the world, I should be able to go to the ATM at 2 a.m. without the fear of being robbed. I should be, right? But that's not the way life works. And does it take any responsibility away from a person who robs me at 2 a.m.? No. But what it does say is that I do need to be more cognizant of my decisions to keep myself as safe as possible, because we don't always protect ourselves on the level that we need to. I mean, and I've told this story before, and I'll probably tell it again at some point in time, because I'm a person that this happened to. And had I not had a saint as a witness, my life may have turned out differently. And I understand that the girl was hurt, embarrassed, but I did nothing wrong, just like some of these other people did. So we get into a tricky spot and a tricky situation when we're trying to make women or men completely wrong in this situation. Everybody's got to take responsibility for their own thing. And it all comes back to the same thing with character, like I talked about with the teens and the murder charge. I mean, what are you going to do as a parent? This is a tough choice right here, because are you going to be willing to send your kid, let your kid get a public defender and go to jail, or are you selling out your 401k for the kid? That's a big time question right there, parents. What are you willing to do? I was talking about the kids who were charged with second-degree murder in Michigan for throwing rocks off a bridge, and they killed somebody who was driving through in a car. That's tough right there, right? Because what would you do? Second-degree murder. Should these kids be going to jail for life? I don't know about that. But they do need to go to jail for some portion of time. Thank you guys for joining me today. Right or wrong, unafraid. Please make sure you like the feed, share the feed, continue the conversation, and most importantly, the unafraidshow@gmail.com. Send us your anonymous emails. Names will never, ever, ever be revealed. Only the NSA can come get these things up out of me. Catch you guys tomorrow. Peace out.